You got the button?
And welcome to Nerd Stalker. I am Adolfo Foronda at Nerd Stalker on Twitter, Foronda on Twitter, Adolfo at nerdstalker.com if you want to email me with my buddy who I haven't talked to in a long time.
SocialGreg, Greg Viloria, aka Greg Viloria. We'll do it the other
Classy
way.
Greg, nothing but a consummate professional.
I tell you, hey, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. How you doing, man? Long time.
Good, man. Yeah, so me and Greg were catching up a little bit because we haven't talked in a long time. Geez, Greg, so what's up with you? You were telling me you switched from Android.
Yeah,
right? So tell me all about that. I'm so curious.
I went iPhone 6. I didn't go 7. So it was interesting. It was time. It just was one of those things where I said, I've been doing Android for the last 4 years. I got used to it, just like anything else, you get used to it. And then I said, okay, I'm going to give iPhone 6s a try. And it's been wonderful, actually. The user interface, as I compare to Android, is definitely a lot smoother, both in action and learning curve. It did take me a while, I'll admit, to get used to it. There are certain Google features now I have to kind of plug in manually somehow, because they're in conflict, right? Each platform automatically, or you have the ability to automatically upload to the cloud, right? And so when you have iPhotos and Google Photos, what do you want to do there? So there's a couple overlaps that you have to kind of deal with when you're switching platforms like that. But overall, it's been really good. The voice to text feature is really good. Siri isn't bad. So there's some positives, but I'm all iOS now. My iPad, Mac user, and this now. So I'm totally Apple now.
So what precipitated it?
Well, my Samsung phone. Well, actually, I take that back. The Moto X that I got died. It just overheated one day and died. I mean, it didn't catch on fire like the Samsung phones, but it definitely was like, this was a pocket warmer. I was going like, what the hell's going on? Then it slowed down.
Was it an old phone or was it a new phone or what?
It was the Moto X. It was second generation, and I had it for about a year and a half. It's the one with the ones with the bamboo back, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Really nice looking. But it just wasn't. I'll admit the Moto X looked nice, but it didn't seem as reliable as the Samsungs. So, and I had a Samsung 3 Galaxy before that. So, I'm not exactly an early adopter, but I'm a, kind of mid adopter when it comes to phones and stuff like that. But are you on iOS completely, or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I gave up on Android way before you. It was way rougher back when I gave up on it, but the funny thing is I'm using all Google services. So it's like the weirdest thing, because they're so damn good on iOS. Like things like photos, like you said, like Google Photos it's a no-brainer. I'm trying to get off of iPhotos completely and actually just go all in with Google Photos because it's just that good. And I don't like how Apple is trying to get you onto iCloud for everything. It's very intrusive, but hey, it's their OS. I understand why they're doing that, because that's sort of what Google sort of owns that space right now.
Are you sure you want to make?
Yeah. Well, notifications. Yeah, that's a whole other abusive, conversation too. But yeah, and then the Google search. Obviously, I use it on iOS. I'm looking down at my phone right now, just looking at all the Google stuff that I use. What else? There's I don't know. It's just so. They're just so good on.
It is.
There's even a weird little scanner app that Google has for like old photos. So like your really old Polaroid photos, it gets them, or even if they're on a wall, and it does some magic to it to make it look like really good and put it into your collection. So it's really neat. Whereas you used to like send your box of photos to like a professional scanner, photo scanning company. You can do this like with this scanner app, and it works incredibly well. Now, would that be your only way to go? I don't know, but for me, it works really well. So I don't know. That's in a nutshell. That's what's up with me.
Did you see that article from Google this week about two kind of like lab scientists at Google basically replicated professional photo editors.
Oh wow! Photos. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
And I think it's part of that whole technology that you just mentioned. It's just their AI is just
AI is insane. But as far as just software development, I hate to say it, but Photoshop has become almost, and I know this is like heresy, like a commodity, right? Because you see other apps out there like Pixelmator and other type of apps that are doing what Photoshop does, maybe 90%, 80% of it at a fraction of the cost without a subscription, right? So
that's the problem.
That's the thing with a lot of these apps that I see. I've found a lot of replacements, some of which I want to talk about today with you, that are like these subscriptions apps and stuff. I'm deviating from the topic, but it's another interesting topic where apps are going subscription versus where we used to just pay for them once and then pay for an upgrade maybe every year or something like that, or not. You could skip the version, right, for the year. But I don't know. That's a different thing. But as far as the Mac, I got a brand new MacBook Pro.
Oh, you did?
Here? Yeah. And I hate it.
Is that the one with the smart ribbon touch on the top?
Yes, the smart bar thing, which I never use. I would much rather use. I'm actually recording right now on my old MacBook Pro because it has all these ports on it, right? So that's another thing. I don't need all these dongles. I only have one USB dongle, traditional USB dongle, and I have all this stuff plugged in my MacBook Pro that I got to use for all my devices, my recording stuff, right? But the big killer is the size of this trackpad. So if you see how huge it is, it's massive, man. So if you type on this thing, let's say you're programming, right? Like a bunch of code, your palms hit naturally this trackpad because it's just so goddamn big. And so your cursor jumps. And so you could be like midway typing through code or a paragraph of text if you're a writer, and you've just fucking updated a sentence and like some paragraph up on, the page or your code way up in a different file. And it could be a huge pain in the ass because you have to be really careful about, did I undo it correctly? Is what was originally there? So it's a major fuck up by Apple, in my opinion.
No. Do you have the 13 or 15?
I got the 15.
Oh,
yeah. So this one, this is the souped up top of the line. You can't get better than this one, right? Like machine. It's got everything, and and for that much money, and I'm talking thousands of dollars here, exactly. And to not be completely happy with it is crazy. Plus the keyboard is super loud too. If I just
it's different, huh?
It's really loud.
They went away. I mean,
they went chiclet keyboard. I can live with it, but it's fucking loud. You know what I mean? So I'm not entirely happy with it, but
wow,
it's a trip.
Wow, that's amazing to me because
it's fast. I mean, I'll give you that. It's fast, obviously, but as any top of the line machine should be, right?
Yeah, that's amazing because when I use a 13-inch because it just fits my backpack a lot more, and I have an older MacBook Pro, but when you go to when I remember, even at that point, when I was considering the 15-inch, it had a lot of real estate above it, right? Above the keyboard and stuff like that. It almost was, it almost felt like the keyboard was just kind of, floating in the middle of this aluminum ocean.
Right.
On the 15-inch, right? And now to hear that they've now expanded that top part to include that bar now, that's kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah, and I'm not finding much of a use for that bar because you're typing like this, you're looking at the screen, you're not looking down at the bar to to break the thing, and I'm always having to fiddle with volume and stuff like that. But one of the new things that I really like that Apple's put out, in my opinion, that's been the big hit, are these guys, the AirPods. So they're fantastic, man.
So you use AirPods?
Man.
I can on the bus every
all
day,
the time, man.
I always stare at people with those AirPods. So so you don't think losing it is a problem? It fits good. In your ear,
but I'm neurotic about it. I'm super freaked out about it. There's trackers for it, like if you leave it somewhere or whatever, but I don't know if it can track each individual one though, because that can be an issue because I actually only keep one in my ear at a time so I can hear stuff around me too. I don't like being all in with headphones. It's just my thing. Like if I'm walking down the street, I want to be aware of my surroundings. If I'm at work, I want to be aware of my surroundings. If I'm at home, same thing. If my kid is, hey dad, I want to hear it, right? But I've fallen asleep with one of them in my ear before. I've forgotten they're in my ears before. That's how crazy and good they are.
Wow, they're that comfortable, huh?
Yeah, yeah, they're good. Plus, I mean, they look kind of goofy, right? But another thing is like if you have them in your ear and you're going for it and you're listening, let's say, to a podcast or music, and someone wants to talk to you, and you take them out, it pauses your podcast or music, and then when you put them back in, it resumes exactly where you left off.
That's weird.
So use it, and it also functions that way if you're watching YouTube on your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing. It'll pause the video and then it'll replay when it's back in your ear. So they're getting really clever with the gyro, you know, in this guy.
I can imagine.
It's really good. It's the best thing Apple's released in, I don't know, since the iPhone probably.
So, yeah, wow, that's really great, because I when they first announced it, what was it, last year?
Yeah,
made the big announcement, there was such big resistance to it. I couldn't believe it, actually. And
I wasn't a big believer until I started seeing like regular folk wearing them and just sort of being backers of it.
That feature you just talked about, where it actually pauses your music when you take it out of your ear, is one of those Apple usability things that you just kind of say, that's Apple.
Very clever. Yeah, and they're always really good at that. Speaking of, I can't help but see that. I think it's a CD or DVD behind you, halfway into your iMac or whatever. I keep cracking up every time I see it.
For those of you listening, give me crap about that, because people still give me stuff on a disc about that.
With a disc halfway in, it's very 1990s. It's great.
Thank you. I'm a retro guy, man.
I love it.
I'm a retro guy. Well, so it keeps on handing me photos that are on CDs. In fact,
I know people still do this.
Here's an example. For Japantown, I'm doing some documentary stuff type of work, but I'm going into history. A lot of these people who are old people, I'd say 70, 80 plus, have photos on CDs, believe it or not.
Right.
And so that's my only way of getting it in. And otherwise, I have to buy one of these internal CD, DVD things that plug into your Thunderbolt or your USB. But
why do that?
Yeah, but it goes back to what you were saying. There's some things with the old MacBooks or iMacs that have some utility still, right?
Yeah, right.
Versus the new stuff where they're moving forward and being more cloud oriented and all that stuff, with the AirBooks and stuff. But oh wow, I'm glad that you got it. So how big of a solid state disk does it have?
Oh, this guy. Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't even care about space anymore. Whatever. No. It's really big. You know what I mean? I don't care anymore because they have these giant flash drives. I never fill it up, really. I'm not doing as extensive video and photo work like you are.
I see.
But yeah, so that's not a big deal for me. So anyways, I'm glad to hear. I'm curious to hear how you do with your iOS experience go forward. And yeah, it'll be interesting.
Let's see how it goes, man. I mean, wow. Yeah, I'll keep you updated next time we talk next time. But I love it so far. I mean, it's very utilitarian in my mind.
Cool. So dude, one of the things I wanted to talk about too was like, so I have parents out there were often, it's summer, right? So we have our kids off at summer camps and stuff like that. And my kid is no exception. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she's off to some camp, and we have had a driving service for kids. Take her, it's sort of like an Uber for kids.
Sure.
Take her to and from camp because grandma doesn't drive, right? And so we obviously am concerned about her, her whereabouts and stuff like that, and being in communication with her.
Sure.
So I started researching things like smartwatches for kids. And that's how I discovered something called the TickTalk. So this is the TickTalk wrist smartwatch for kids.
Interesting.
And out of all of them I've researched, and it was a whole bunch of them, this is the one you want to buy, people. So this is my Nerd Stalker recommendation here. So it's a really cool little thing. I don't know, it's like $120 or something like that. You can put in, it's got like a phone and texting feature. And what's really cool about it is you can limit the number of people that can contact your kid, right? So right now on my kid's phone, and it's also GPS, so you can track them, right? And so on my kid's phone, it's just me, my wife, and grandma, right? At this point that she can call at any time, or she could leave us a voicemail straight from the phone. It's a straight like Dick Tracy, right? So you're talking into the phone if you want a conversation, and the quality is quite good. So it comes with a little chip. It's optional. It's up to you to put whatever chip you want to in terms of what network you're going to use. They provide a chip called SpeedTalk is the company who leverages T-Mobile's network, right, which is fantastic here in Marin County and in the Bay Area, actually, in general. And it's really cheap. You can do it on, we do it on an as usage kind of basis, so it's really cheap. So it averages not even $5 a month for us. Depending on the usage. And also, you know, there are all these different sort of like watch faces with it, and like a calculator, a calendar thing if they want to use it. But really the GPS tracking and the being able to contact your kid and for them to contact you in any scenario is great. This guy paid for itself the first day. In my case, because my mom, who was going to meet my kid to pick her up via an Uber, lost her phone, right? Or left it in the Uber. And so my kid got on her watch, called me and said, "Hey, Dad, Grandma left her phone, and that's why you can't get a hold of her." So like, this thing is awesome, man. So I would tell you guys, get it. It's a one-time thing. You just pay $120, whatever, TikTok. Now, that being said, do not submerge the watch. Don't go swimming with it like my kid did. TikTok was kind enough to replace the watch otherwise, but they have a really great policy that if it does get submerged, I think it's for $40 you can get a new unit or something like that. You know, they can obviously tell if it's been submerged. I put mine in rice actually, but not in quick enough time. It was a day later that I discovered that this had happened before the confession came through. Anyways, got another replacement unit. Fantastic. You can wash your hands with this thing. It's water resistant. Just do not go swimming with it. That being said, this is the best thing for your kids, for those that sort of age range. If you're concerned about your kid and like, you know, where they're at or communicating with them, the TikTok. Check them out.
Oh, that's cool. So how's the user interface on that, or does it really matter?
It's like it's a touch screen type of thing. So as you can see here, you sort of like touch the screen and you sort of swipe. And you get these different type of screens. You swipe left, swipe right, and you just touch the icon, and it's really intuitive. My kid figured it out. I didn't think she would be able to because I was so confused with it. She got it quicker than I did. So I think, you know, kids, they intuitively pick up on this. You can tell TikTok really did their UX work on this, just in terms of initial functionality. I'm sure it's just going to get better and better. But yeah. So check them out. Oh, cool. I believe it's mytiktok.com.
Wow. Well, then that kind of also gives you into this area where IoT will start to connect more and more with people, right? I mean, I think I saw an article the other day about seniors and how IoT is really going to drive in the senior market for monitoring and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting, I thought. So
yeah. So
wow.
Wow, screen here. There you go, TikTok. There is an app for it, so there you go. $129 in these different colors. Oh, the one thing I should mention is this charger. That's the only critique I have is this charger is kind of kludgy. You put the watch in this thing, and closing it and opening it is rather difficult, especially opening it. So you have to be kind of careful with it. I'm sure that'll get improved upon. But the reason they use this sort of enclosure charging scenario is to keep the watch as small as it is, because it is a little bigger, you know, but the other kids' smartwatches on the market are even bigger. So it's like they're wearing I don't know, like a hockey puck on their wrist, right? So it's a little extreme. But this one is the smallest one and works the best. So there's the sort of the app GUI for locating your kid. There's an icon here to call them, to leave them a voicemail, to track them, and you can even do this thing where you can see how many steps they're getting in. So if your kid is not getting enough exercise, this is unfortunately a sort of a reflection of today and sedentary kids, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful device. I really recommend it.
That's great. How did you come across this? You just did research, or did they?
Yeah, so
no,
I just did research. So I was a need that we had within a family, and surprisingly, a lot of families have, where nowadays it's a working dad and a working mom, and you're during summertime, you're in a pinch, right? So you send your kid off to camp, and it's amazing that people can even raise kids nowadays here in the United States. But with all these logistical sort of requirements, but this thing is wonderful for assisting.
Now, how is the car service going? You mentioned that.
Well, that one's not so great because their service only goes to like San Francisco-ish area. So their coverage in Marin County is about, 30 minutes north of San Francisco, is spotty at best. So what they do is they vet. Essentially, what we found is a lot of these drivers in this car service company are Lyft and Uber drivers as well. They're just vetted ones, right? So they have done like these child-specific background checks. I'm hoping most of them are female. The ones that we've had, have been. Just statistically, that seems to be the thing, unfortunately, for certain type of felons in that type of space, right? So you probably want a female driver to drive your kid around.
Can you choose female or male?
I don't think so. I think it's sort of
a nice feature. Actually.
Yeah. But so it's been hit or miss, but we, with that one, but it worked well. The one time someone took the ride, someone offered the ride. Mm-hmm.
No, that's great. Yeah, there was a couple of startups last year that I caught at, of all places, J-Pop Summit. This guy was starting.
J-Pop!
Yeah, that's coming up in September. But this guy was promoting, he was a startup that was promoting that type of service in the San Jose area. And I was talking to him about it, and it was interesting is because, what another alternative, what I heard parents do, and this is just talking to many people, is that they've made friends with an Uber driver that they trust.
Yeah. That is one thing I regret not doing, because the one driver, we should have just offered her, the amount of money, because it wasn't trivial amount of money to get our kid to another town to go to this camp, So yeah, I'm sure they would have. That's a smart move. That's a good piece of advice.
Yeah, that's another alternative that I've heard parents do. I think same situation as you, working parents, and 3 kids in the family in 3 different schools.
Right.
So talk about, logistic nightmare. That's like the ultimate, right? So, so there's not a lot of times where even both parents can't get to the 3rd school, so they have to arrange a ride for the 3rd child or the 2nd or 2 of the 3 kids. It's really amazing, actually. So I see where that transportation thing is going to be big. I mean, I would see where bigger guys will start to get into it. I'm surprised that Lyft and Uber hasn't offered that type of service yet.
Right. Yeah, right. That's a whole other thing that could be helpful. I can see how it's very niche, so I understand that. So speaking of Uber, man, what do you think of all this crazy news, right?
Oh man,
your thoughts on that? Travis and the gang?
Yeah, the bro culture, as what Kara Swisher said.
Yeah. I mean, we've been privy to that, right? Because we've had a front row seat here in the Bay Area to a lot of this for decades now.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it since you started with SF Newtek way back 2007, 2006, right? It was just, it just happened to be at that time. And for a long time, engineers were mainly male. And that culture, I think Kara Swisher and Megyn Kelly on NBC, it kind of discussed a little bit of that. And then when you hear on, you watch PBS, they talk about it a lot. It's this culture that just, is due for a change. I think it's just the way it works right now, right? And I was really, I was really amazed by the woman who, called him out because that was very brave, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And
very brave.
This is kind of a touchy or a tough, subject, because here are 2 males talking about it, right? But and not having the female perspective. That being said, we've seen this type of thing happen and still occurs in a lot in some startups, right? And then
the one I was really shocked
sensitivity about, or what I mean, to that.
Yeah. No. I was going to mention. Sorry to cut you off. The one I was really shocked about was McClure at the 500 Startups. that just like, whoa. I mean, that told me that
for the people who don't have any context, can
huge.
you?
Yeah, so Dave McClure, after all the stuff with Travis and the culture he was building in his startup was coming to light, and the sexual harassment, another female came out, or a couple of female founders, came out against Dave McClure, and then his stories were starting to come out, and then they basically booted his ass out. I mean, Dave McClure and 500 Startups, in terms of the VC thing, was synonymous, and now he's just cut off. I mean, his apology was really interesting, though, if you think about it. He said that, hey, I admit it, I'm a creep. Right? It was a lot to me, to be honest with you. But, I think since we're both, they call people of color.
Right. But there's a time and a place, you know what I mean, man, for being a creep. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's okay. I think it's okay for people to have proclivities, of whatever. The workplace, though, is, you know what I mean? Not the place.
No, and I think, anyone in power positions start to feel that they could do a lot of things, It isn't just sexual harassment. I think there's also other things that people do in that type of mindset that is on the edge of, edge of right and wrong, right?
Yeah.
And then it isn't just sexual harassment; it's other things I've seen.
Yeah. I've had a lot of really wonderful conversations, as you mentioned earlier. I have had a lot of conversations lately with these authors, right, of various sort of experts in business, and a lot of oftentimes a theme, even in agility and whatever, leadership and all these different things. A lot of times a theme comes across like a bullying type of personality type, right? And it's interesting. I heard Kevin Rose on his podcast talk about the Uber situation and Travis, and not really make an excuse for him so much as say Uber needed that aggressive personality type early on. And I've heard this from other really smart people as well, where sometimes, and Reid Hoffman too said, sometimes a lot of startups, they need a very aggressive personality type to sort of get them to a certain stage, right, of a company. And then, but when you hit the other side, so to speak, or a higher stage in the company, when you're hitting some certain numbers, it takes a different type of leadership, right? It's no longer you're right despite everyone else, right? Because when you're beginning, other people telling you, oh, that's a crazy idea, you're wrong, and you're like, I'm going to do it anyways because I know what's right, right? Despite all of that, and, you're going against the norm. But once you hit the top, a certain place, there's a time and a place to take that external input and actually, utilize it, right? And leverage other smart people on your team as well. And it seems like what we have is these early types trying to go later, and then they're not perhaps the right person, obviously, to take it to the next level.
Yeah. It's very rare that you see founders scale with the company. I mean, Reid Hoffman is probably one of those guys who has been able to scale with the company. He has a lot of experience in that. The Microsoft guys, obviously, able to scale with the company. So it's possible, but it's not normal, I don't think.
Right. And it's there's plenty of successful companies that are run by people who are empathetic, right? And obviously are don't harass people, but don't need to be assholes, so to speak, either. Totally. It's completely not necessary.
Yeah, it's totally. And it was interesting. I was able to interview at the California Drone Challenge yesterday. Adriana Gascon was the CEO of Girls in Tech, so
very cool.
We were talking a little bit off camera about, a lot of the stuff that was happening. And she says that, it's just the migration of things. I mean, that's why Girls in Tech is there. I didn't realize, she told me that they've been around for almost 10 years. I didn't realize that. I thought they were a lot newer than that.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you that, she grew up, she was telling me, in companies, bigger companies, that she was the only female tech person or female person on there. And from her perspective, and I'm going to try to schedule a follow-up interview with her, because I'd like to hear the story a little bit more. But I think she was saying that, organizations like Girls in Tech were very necessary to provide not only access to technology, but also a safe place for women to come to grow their careers and to seek mentors and stuff like that. So, I think that's, and I don't know if you caught the Megyn Kelly NBC story, but yeah, all of those women had interesting stories to talk about. Right. I mean, it was almost, there again, obviously we were talking just specifically about sexual harassment, but, that strong personality thing again, of how do you make your startup succeed, right? And at what cost?
Right. Well, diversity is and this sort of illustrates the importance of diversity again, right? And having diverse perspectives is financially smart. It makes your company better. And oftentimes people think it's just sort of like an equal opportunity program, right? And I think that's the wrong perspective. I think it really does assist the bottom line and help a company be healthy and grow in a healthy type of way.
Yeah, balanced culturally, cultural balance is very important, I think, these days. So
speaking of balance, baby, this is my new love here. These guys are called lock laces. So, I'm always looking for life hacks. And how's that for transition? And I hate tying my shoes. It's one of them. And so there's these things called lock laces. These on my shoes. And all it is kind of a stretchy string, right, type of thing. And they have this thing where it's kind of like you press down and it just slides up and down. And so it'll tie, it tightens your shoe.
Oh, it's like on jackets. Yeah.
And yeah, like that thing on jackets.
Yeah.
And, super handy. It just cuts out that time, that little extra thing. So when you're in a rush, which I always am, lock laces are a fun little tip that I dig. It's just one of those little things that you're like,
I love it. You're so good.
Little under whatever, $20 purchase, $15 purchase. And that sort of just helps your life a little bit. Now, that being said, the ones that I have are definitely for the low tops, here, and not for the high tops. So I'm like jamming my foot into it. They don't have, I don't think they have a high top one. They have what they call a boot top version. But yeah. So what you do, it comes like this, right? In this sort of package. And of these type of things, and you just put it in, and then you cut it, you slide on the dealy bob. I'm sort of rushing through this thing so you can see. And so you put it like that, feed it through, it bites down, you slide it, and then you cut it to fit you, in your particular shoe.
Oh, you're going to be getting the self-tying
Marty
McFly sneaker soon, I'm sure.
It, baby.
You're moving that direction. You're moving that direction, man.
Check them out, locklaces.com. It's a fun little thing.
I'm surprised this didn't go onto Sharks.
Shark Tank or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah. I think the Sharks would have had a lot of fun with this one.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Shark Tank guys.
So tell me about your setup, man. We were talking about a little bit before, like your new, because Greg looks much better, right? And better camera, better everything. What do you got going on there?
So I started shooting more with blackmagic cameras. The guy who's been really taking me under his wing, a cinematographer, Darren Kerr, has got me into blackmagic cameras.
Boy, you've really stepped up your game.
Yeah, if you don't know about blackmagic cameras, there's this indie brand of supplying what we call, I would call low-cost cinematographic cameras. That's the best way to describe it. They have these things called Reds and Alexas, but they're in the tens of $1,000s, and none of us could ever own that. I mean, we could if we did that for a living.
So is this what's considered like prosumer?
Yeah, and I think it's more 2/3 pro, 1/3 sumer.
Oh wow, okay.
So the sumer part is this MFT mount that I have on there right now, and it's using a stock Lumix Panasonic 14-42 lens, and then it's called a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, and I'm actually streaming on this live. So I was able the other day to figure out how to do that. And what I use now is this, what they call, it's this HDMI to Thunderbolt connection. So it's high speed.
Wow.
And it's by Blackmagic as well. So
does that sucker get hot?
It's warm.
Yeah,
I think in the winter I'm going to really appreciate it. I could actually put it under my butt, maybe.
Yeah. I was wondering.
I can open up the windows, put it under my butt. And,
we have an old DSLR, like an old Nikon D70 or something like that, and I always wanted to use it as webcam because the lens quality, the picture quality is so much better than this Logitech HD camera that webcam that I'm on. But then I'm like, oh wait, you can't plug it in directly for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh, you need this in between dealie that you have. So, and then even then it wasn't compatible, but I know those cameras that you mentioned, I forgot the name already, were quite well in that whole scenario. Yeah,
and now this is just the rig I use when I'm going to shoot Nerd Stalker interviews like I did yesterday. You know, that product review I did of the Connect IntelliPlug, that was all shot with this camera. So, you know, I think it's something that I'm going to. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll release in the next week a what's in my bag video, just to show everyone how we do our interviews here at Nerd Stalker and how we go out in the field with our backpack. I have this back called a think tank, and it's perfect. And the tripod that I use now folds flat.
Whoa!
So I'll show you that one. Yeah,
when I do that, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, it folds flat, so now everything's flat in my bag.
Wow!
And I could fit a lot of things. And in fact, you guys will be amazed when I do what's in my bag.
That's awesome! I can't wait
because I also have I have a lot of things in there. So
wow! Yeah. So did this take a lot of experimentation, or did you?
Yeah, you know, I went from the tripod I was using was just a small, I think, Surui, but it was, you know, it was a typical tripod, but it folded pretty small. It folded like within maybe 16 inches, 17 inches, which is pretty small, right?
Yeah.
But then I noticed that it wasn't filling the volume of my bag quite right. So then I found these Benro tripods because I started to use Benro heads. I use Manfrotto and Benro heads for our video work here at Nerd Stalker.
Yeah.
And I noticed Benro had a folding flat one, and I had to check it out. So B&H had a return on one. Well, I just snapped that one up. It was hardly used. It was in great shape. And I love it. It's a little weird because you have to kind of fold the legs out from the flat position, and the middle one folds out. And then one of the versions actually, and I don't know if I have that one, I don't think I have that one, allows you to take the center column and make it a monopod.
Jeez.
So it's really, they make some
that's awesome.
versatile ones.
Yeah. God, I got to get one of those, man.
Yeah, I think so. I think you'd be happy with it because, you know, you could be very portable with a very small camera real quick, and you'll be out there already. So, yeah, so that's the rig. And then I'm shooting with LED lights right now. So that's why you told me I was really dark.
Yeah, they're way better. Yeah, it's either, I mean, Greg in the past has been either really washed out, like super way too bright, right? or it's just like, where's Greg, right? It's just a floating hat.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, with this bright background behind me, you definitely need light in front of me. So,
yeah, for sure. It looks good, man.
Good. Yeah,
good to hear about the setup.
Thanks for letting me talk about my rig a little bit, and I'll definitely do the what's in my bag piece. I think that would be interesting to most people. How we would be portable in Nerd Stalker and shoot interviews and stuff. So,
well, let me talk about another little thing I like. It's you know, earlier we were talking about these applications that are quite expensive or have subscriptions and things like that. One of them is a really great app. I don't believe it's a subscription. I think it's $100 though. It's called, I believe, Screencapture or something like that. And it's a top of the line app, right, for people who want to do screen capture videos and things like that, tutorials, perhaps that kind of thing. But lately I've stumbled onto a company and a free service, which is fantastic. And they're called Loom, Loom. And I've spoken about them in the past, but they keep iterating and getting better and better, and it's crazy. So let me show it to you. They effectively do what Screencapture does, for free, right? So if we go and I will show you here. So this is like a version of sort of a guy demoing what it's like. You can have a little video of yourself, it's using your webcam, and it can use your microphone, whatever, and it's recording your screen as you're using it. You can talk and it shows your whole screen. And this is a version of how after it captures, you can add metadata. It also integrates with Slack too. So you can do a Loom directly from Slack with your team or whatever channel you are, saying, hey, here's this, here's that. So in this example, he's talking about his spreadsheet for his team or whatever. And you can adjust the size of the video circle, whether you want it in the center or whatever. And you can zoom in on different parts if you pinch to zoom or whatever, things like that. So it's been immensely helpful. A lot of these companies are using it. Again, it's free. And check them out. Useloom.com. It's been incredible. So I've used it for all kinds of things. I've used it for sort of where I've had to troubleshoot something and send it to like a help center support to illustrate the problem that I'm having with a particular application or screen or critique that I have of a certain application. I would record it, show what I'm doing, talk them through it, and then just send the URL to my video that's hosted on Loom to the troubleshooting person, and they're immensely grateful to get that amount of detail, because usually you have to type in, the problem. There was a problem with button A or a problem with button B and something else didn't show up. But when you have a video with audio, it's way more, it gives the support person much more context. Not only that, I'm doing like tutorials with it as well. As you've seen in some of the Nerd Stalker past videos, I've used it for like a text, where I've done sort of another particular application, a demo of that. I've done a demo of Trelloist, I believe, with it as well, with Trello. And what else did I do? Todoist setup, I recorded with it as well. So you can do all these sort of like screen tutorials and whatever. The sky's the limit. And you can, additionally, you can download the video itself from Loom and upload it to YouTube, right? Or edit it or whatever as you want, or throw it into your particular video editor of choice. And then also there are options where you can turn off the microphone if you want, or the camera. If you only want to show the screen, and it's really cool. It's free is the killer thing. It has sort of a weird, I don't know if they're still doing it, but it had a weird sort of onboarding process where you had to share it with that you're using with X amount of people, and after X amount of people, I think it was 2 sign up, then you get it for free, kind of thing. So the onboarding was sort of weird, but I don't know if they're still doing that. But that being said, you could set up another separate email account and send it to yourself, and and then you get credit for both of them, and you find one other person to click the link, and you're good to go. But you didn't hear that from me.
That's wonderful.
So check them out.
Wow. Because in the past, I've used whatever the Apple one, QMovie or whatever.
Was it QuickTime or?
QuickTime Movie. And they have a way you could actually screen capture and save, but you have to edit it. So this is really cool. You actually go directly to the service.
From the browser, yeah. And what's crazy is I've used it for offline applications. So although it initiates in the browser, if you have a separate standalone application, you can record yourself using that as well, which is mind-boggling that it's doing. It captures your desktop if you want. So that's another thing. You can choose whether to share your desktop, particular application, right, browser window, or not. So it's really clever, and the team is incredibly responsive and really fast to attack different suggestions and stuff too. So useloom.com, free. Check them out.
That's great. Hey, I had a question about you. You mentioned Todoist. I saw that post you did the other day.
Yeah.
Tell me about this and how it's how you're trying to figure out how to organize your life, it looks like.
Yeah. So, as Greg knows, I'm a productivity app junkie. You've tried all of them, right? So OmniFocus is probably the gorilla, right? The 500-pound gorilla of this space for personal productivity and that kind of thing, keeping your life on track. For me, and I suffer from ADD pretty much. And so if I have applications with lots of options and things going on, it's really challenging for me to utilize it and stay focused and stay on point and use it as it's intended to be used, right? So I needed something simpler. I tend to resonate with things like Kanban boards and simple lists or check boxes and things like that. And that's why I love two applications in particular. It's Trello, which is sort of like a free Kanban board application that was purchased by Atlassian recently that I highly recommend. And then Todoist as well. And Todoist is wonderful. It's across all sort of platforms, web, application, operating system. Extremely cheap. How much? I think it's an annual $50 or something like that. Super powerful and integrates with your Amazon Echo or Dot device. I'm not going to say the A word because I don't want to trigger it for anyone. And its API is super flexible. So if you're a developer out there, you can have it integrate with all kinds of stuff, you know, in all kinds of different ways. So so you can add in to-do items into Todoist with incredible ease. So it being so ubiquitous everywhere, it's incredibly functional for me.
I like that because I'm a Slack user, and
yeah,
I've always kind of had a hard time. I've integrated To Do into Slack, but it's still clunky, you know. Quite frankly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's another challenge is we have all these different interfaces now for all these different things, these disparate things. We have email, we have Slack, we have, you know, God knows what else, instant messengers, you know, and our various other reminders, calendars, right? Google Calendar, and then whatever your productivity app is or not, you know, perhaps you're just keeping a notes file somewhere. It's a lot of things to keep in you know, a track of in Evernote as well, or whatever that is for you. So to have them play with each other quite nice and is sort of imperative, right, at this point. And and that's one of the great things about Todoist is it just plays with everything so well.
Now, are you a Slack user, or have you used Slack? Or?
I am. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not a hardcore Slack user. I'm using for 3 or 4 different things. I haven't gone. I'm not really an expert of it by any means. How about you, Greg?
Yeah, I tried it on a couple projects that I worked on, mainly involving multiple team members and multiple layers within the team. You know. And I like the communication aspect. I like the push notification that comes on my phone. Those are great features. But again, I guess I could go to 37 Signals, get their application. And, you know, I've tried a lot of them. There hasn't been a good way that integrates the to-do. I haven't, you know, I haven't found something that really is, I would call project management, product management level integrated to-do lists, right? Because a lot of things are somewhat interdependent, you know, from a project standpoint. And a lot of times is what I would really love someone, and they might have this already on Todoist, is in project management, you have what is called really the gating task, right? The gating project, right? How you want to call that. And I would love, as tasks get completed on my teams or whatever that's very complex, to tell me to have something give me a push notification. What is the gating task for today? Because as a manager, then I can focus on that, right? I can focus on, like, you know, oh, that's the gating one. I better go help Sam, or I better go help Adolfo, or whatever. I haven't seen anything like that yet, actually, but maybe there's something out there. Maybe you guys know out there that I'm missing, but I haven't seen anything yet on that.
Right. That seems more like a sort of like a way of doing things, whether it's GTD or Agile, you know, whatever particular flavor of Agile you want to use. And then the tool just sort of like works off of that, whatever, you know, philosophy that you're utilizing. Also, what I've noticed is that there's a difference, really a big difference between personal productivity applications versus team management applications. They can be two very different things. I know Todoist works really well for personal productivity, like extremely well, and OmniFocus too. But for a team type of, you know, collaboration type of management type of scenario, OmniFocus breaks down completely. Some people use Todoist quite effectively, but then you start going into other type of applications as well, like things like Jira or Trello or what else is there? Asana.
That
work quite well for things like that.
Yeah.
So you might be going in two different directions. So that often is a challenge for me, is where do I separate my sort of personal productivity versus my teamwork stuff? You know what I mean? So, and sometimes there's overlap. So I run into that challenge quite a bit.
Yeah, I think we all do, right? Because I think it's a common part of life now that we're working on multiple projects. Mm-hmm. Whether it's our own personal home projects or it's a startup project that we have while we're working our other regular gig. Then we have our regular gig projects. So, but all those things have to kind of work together in a way, right? Because it's time. Right?
Yeah, totally, man.
What time do I want to spend on each one, and how do I want to spend it, right? My time.
Right.
And that's tougher and tougher. And when we're doing this podcast gig, each of us are going out and interviewing authors, interviewing other people. But again, it takes time. Mm-hmm. We have to reach out to these people. We got to schedule a time, and we have to do it just like the podcast today, right?
Right.
And it's more of a sign of the times where people are juggling 2 to 3. I would call not like go to the store tasks, but major tasks. Hey, do this interview, release the blog, release this, or whatever. It's a little bit more complicated than just going to the store, right? And remind yourself that I need milk. So I think that's kind of the interesting thing that has turned with these smart devices and everything. It's allowed us to kind of, us ADD folks, to try to, work on 3 or 4 important projects in our life that, could have some impact.
Right. I can't emphasize enough the importance of, go read GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen. If you're some new kid to this whole thing and you're unorganized, or you feel unorganized, or you can't focus and stuff like that. I know I was very much the same. I'd wish I would have read the book when I was 16, 15, and I'm just, getting better, adept at it now, so that I can have something like what Greg's alluding to, like I know what my quick next action is, right? And without having to think about it and then get distracted by other things, I know I can stay on point, whether it's like I need to buy milk, I need to do work item X. After that, I need to take out the cat litter or take the trash out, bring it back in, change the head of a toothbrush, whoever thinks of that, right? Stuff like that. And as well, you might want to look into something that I'm a big proponent of, is the Agile framework in general, and the Agile sort of world in terms of how to do work, as a team. In my opinion, I see the world moving towards this type of agile sort of working model. All the large companies are all going towards it. I think all these companies are, and you're going to get a big win if you just Google agile and start reading some stuff on it. And one of the things I did was how I'm using Todoist, and I highly recommend, or I hope that some of you will go and watch it, a video that I did about it, because not only is it me sharing sort of what other experts have that I've learned from, but it's me also asking the questions like, hey, how can I do this better? And also saying, this is a wish list that I have. One of the things is I wish Todoist, because I'm not the best with like outline type of model, list item type of stuff. That's why the Kanban thing works really well for me, and seeing these columns and seeing these blocks move, so I know what stages they're in.
Yeah.
And I wish there was some sort of integration. Asana has something like that, where you have this outline option type of view, much like Todoist, but also offers that view in a board-like view. And I'm like, God, one of the critiques I had was I wish there was a functionality like that. And one of the commenters on the video, and I wish I could remember his name offhand, but I don't, mentioned something called Trelloist, which is very clever, right? It's a mix between Todoist and Trello. So you see here, it shows a little Todoist icon plus Trello, and what this developer has done, and it's very much a sort of work in progress. Someone named Misha, and I'm going to donate to this guy. It's sort of a marriage between the two, and I've been playing with it, and it's really quite good, and I think it has legs, and I recommend that you guys check it out. So if you have a pre-existing Todoist sort of item here, you can just quickly add in these items, and they show in as he's creating. You can see he's creating these different columns like we do in Trello, where it's oftentimes this to do, doing, and done. There you go. So it's adding these as labels in Todoist, and it's really cool. So there are your columns, and it's really simple. And this is something that I love about Trello is it's so damn easy to add things to do. Like, right, he's adding this, boom, you have a task there, you have a task there. So it looks like it's just adding it here in this Trello type of view, but it's also, like I said, Todoist has a wonderful API. And so it's directly writing to Todoist as well. So when you go back into Todoist, you'll see all of these tasks that you need to do. And there's a backlog, and you can move these items like he's doing here via column. What I was sort of articulating is how I see things best is by moving like these things into these columns versus an outline view. It just works for me personally in this Kanban type of flow. And it's really clever how this guy has leveraged Todoist functionality in this Kanban type of view. It's really great.
That's cool. That's really good. I'm like you. I'm very visual. So looking at a long spreadsheet or spreadsheet-like thing that's all text is really tough for me at times.
Right. So here's the Todoist view.
I like this Kanban approach. It's nice.
Yeah. So very cool. I definitely recommend you guys check them out. It's Trelloist.com.
Wow, cool. Yeah, you've been putting some good agile stuff out there. And I mean, to speak about the agile real quickly, it's just a different way of thinking, I think, or another way of thinking about things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can thank. There was I believe it was a manager way back in the day here in America that actually went to Japan.
Oh yeah,
and sort of the history to work with Toyota, right? Yeah. And because Japan was struggling at the time as an auto manufacturer. Yeah. And then they made up this model, refined a pre-existing model, improved upon it, and sold it back to America, right?
It was hilarious. I mean, it's all about manufacturing, but it turned out it was adaptable to many different things,
Which is incredible that it's getting popularized now, so many decades later, right? That we're finally catching on. And that sort of reflects how sort of non-flexible we are as a society oftentimes, right? To consider new ideas and things like that. But Toyota is by no means a, socialistic, slow-moving company, right? Because a lot of it can be seen as that. It's like this team approach and not worrying about paperwork and this hierarchy stuff that's been hindering companies for so long.
Yeah, I was introduced to the Kanban approach when I was at a fairly big company when we had a big production line in Austin, and it was amazing to me. I was used to the serial approach like most people are, right? I mean, take the part, put together, move it to the next one.
Right.
And the Kanban approach was just so interesting to me because it was basically parts on demand, right?
Yeah.
And bringing things when you need it, not as opposed to just keep it there in the big inventory and then just drawing it down till you hit a level and then you reorder it again, right?
Right.
So it's such a different way of thinking and approach that I think for a lot of people it was very hard to adapt to, quite frankly.
Yeah. So there was that in Scrum as well, right? So there's Kanban and Scrum, probably the two most popular, agile type of approaches, if you will. And what used to be, like Greg's sort of articulating, is sort of a waterfall process where in the software development world, it would be you get a bunch of requirements from some higher ups, give them to developers, see you a year later, and hope that maybe you got what you wanted and that you still want what you requested, in January, in December after it ships, right? And whereas sort of like in the Kanban Scrum Agile approach, really it's you're providing value every 2 weeks or whatever your cycle is, or as it comes out, and you're seeing and you're adapting and changing constantly. And change isn't seen as a bad thing. It's in fact, it's encouraged and welcome so that you can build the right product or whatever, release the right thing or whatever it may be. And it's often built on the concept of sort of self-organizing teams, and God forbid, right, that you do that. So in this day and age, it's crazy that that's still a touch point of resistance for some management.
No, I think you brought up a very good point earlier about kind of the team approach towards things and iterating quick, which is really startup life, right?
Yeah.
Getting a product out to the market fast, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be perfect, but perfect enough that you could iterate it again, right?
Right.
And even if it fails, right? So.
Right.
So I think that's all part of the culture that's being brought up. But, a lot of people don't know the background of all that. It's just,
Yeah. It's fascinating histoy. Yeah, I definitely. It's a fun read for you people if you.
Yeah.
It
absolutely.
sounds dry, but it's really, really interesting.
Yeah. You can maybe get an ebook.
Yeah.
Talk to you.
To learn about that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not just for startup companies. It sounds all high techy and whatever. I mean, large financials are using it now. It's seeping into everywhere. I talked to a ad agency that are finally. I was been waiting for these guys to get in it because once ad agencies, they're very not. They could be more productive. Let's just say. And once it gets into other verticals and weird type of little businesses, boy, are things going to get interesting.
That's cool. Wow. No, it's a great topic. I mean, you've been doing a lot with Agile recently. I've noticed, and organization and management books.
Yeah, I mean, I love learning about certain things, and once I get passionate about something, I just, as Greg knows,
great.
I vomited all over him.
No, it's great. I love it. Hey, good stuff there, man. Wow. Anything else we want to talk about before we quit here?
Yeah, let's see. So just a couple more things. So another thing I like is something called Meetingbird, right? So I've been using it's essentially a scheduling app, and it's the free version is wonderful. So here it is, meetingbird.com. Integrates with Google Calendar. If you're a Google Calendar user, you can assign times for people or whatever to schedule meetings. Usually, this is a really expensive thing, and they offer a lot of stuff right out of the box, as well as their pro. You could white label it in their pro version and do a little bit more, but their free version is wonderful. And talk about a team that iterates incredibly fast. It is ridiculously responsive. Meetingbird is it. They have an active Slack group as well. Speaking of Slack, where they will talk about announcements and support you right there. Henry and the team have been very responsive, incredibly fast. I mean, I suggest they recently rolled out something where you can schedule meetings directly from, Gmail, right? And if it sees a date in one of your emails was a new feature, it'll pops up a little thing that says, hey, do you want to utilize this to schedule a meeting? Right in your browser, right in the comfort of your browser, and it was popping up all the time for every email. And they just rolled this out yesterday, and I wrote them in the Slack channel. Said, "Hey, I did a Loom video, right, to show the example of it happening." And what do you guys think? Is there a way to make this not pop up for every email? He's like, "Oh, would you like us to have create something so it suppresses it? It doesn't pop up every time." I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be great." Like, I shit you not, like 10, 15 minutes later, boom, they'd rolled out the fix. And he's like, yeah, it'll populate out with Chrome in a few minutes or whatever. And it was done. I mean, that's the type of like responses team. That's why I would bet the farm on this team, man. These guys they work incredibly fast. They have great taste, great UI. You can tell by the design, it looks really well, and it just seems to be getting better and better. I've been using this since pretty much early in the beginning, and boy, is it really helpful. So if you're out there, you need to schedule meetings for whatever it may be, your team, your little league, your interviews, if you're a podcaster like us, whatever, give it a try. It's free. You can't go wrong. Integrates with Google Calendar amazingly. And Chrome, if you're a Chrome user, it's a no-brainer. Obviously, it doesn't matter if you're on what OS you're on. So definitely check it out. Meetingbird.
That's cool. No, that's nice. Yeah, that's great.
The last thing I wanted to share with Greg, something that I'm waiting for and purchasing, is my Segway.
You serious?
I'm getting a Ninebot by Segway. It's the Mini Pro. I just saw it on sale from Woot. Usually this thing is like $800, $900. Woot had it for like $400. It was $399. I don't know if it still is. And so I jumped all over it, because I've been wanting one of these. And it's not like the Segway of old where you're standing up and there's a handle thing. This is kind of more like a power board type of thing where you're standing on it and you turn, like this goes about to where knee level is.
Right.
And it's interesting because this company Ninebot, which I believe is a Chinese company, bought Segway back in the day.
Yes.
Now they have all these other type of devices. They have unicycle one, which is really great. And anyways, this is their sort of slimmed down, more affordable Segway for people, right? Because the Segway was like $1,000, $1,500 minimum, if not more, right? Thousands of dollars. And this is really cool. It's Bluetooth connected as well, so you can, control it from your phone if you're so inclined. I don't know why anyone do it. It's a max speed of 10 miles per hour, so not the fastest thing in the world. 14-mile range. It's got a lithium-ion, 310-watt battery, and it's a lot of. I can't wait to get it. It'll arrive here on the 26th. So I'll give you guys a more in-depth review. There's a ton of them on YouTube because they've been out for a while, but a lot of fun. I'm very interested in the unicycle one now too, which is a one-wheel device that you get on. I'm just so interested in this now, for getting around. In San Francisco, my big challenge is in hills in San Francisco, it's routine for us to have 18% grade hills, and I park on top of probably the steepest hill in San Francisco on top of Nob Hill. And getting down to my work and up to that hill is a bear, man. And it's a good workout. And if you like to be sweaty in work clothes in your car, then I highly recommend it. Or if you want to stand on the bus for 4 blocks with like a sardine can and with other people, you like rubbing up on other people, you can take the bus and do that. But personally, I've been looking for some kind of device I could just ride up on. The thing is, like, most of these devices aren't powerful enough to get up a hill like that, especially like I'm a 180-pound guy, grown man, so it's with a backpack and a laptop, right? So 200, it's like good luck getting me up a 18-19% grade hill every day. So we'll see. I'm not convinced that this will be able to do it, but it's at that price point where my family could have a lot of fun with it. Another thing I've been looking at is electric scooters that are. I'm waiting for EcoRico to come out with it's called, I believe, the R Model R is one, and then Luna Cycles. At lunacycles.com has one called the Apocalypse, which is incredibly powerful and super fast and not safe for kids, that you want to check out as well. So
yeah, I've been seeing people a lot with the longboards in San Francisco here.
Now, the boosted boards. Yeah, Casey Neistat.
They're limited by the grade also, but I saw a guy going uphill. Like, wow, I never had my skateboard go uphill that fast.
Yeah, nuts, right?
Even propelled, right?
Yeah.
So that was really cool to watch it. He's on his phone and it's Bluetooth enabled, so he could control speed and everything. So it was kind of interesting.
Nuts. Yeah, man. So Greg, great to talk to you again, man. Catch up.
Yeah. Well, I think coming up, I'm going to release a couple of interviews from the California Drone Challenge that I was invited to, or we were invited to. It was like yesterday at the Palace of Fine Arts. So that's going to be coming up in the next week, I think. And then, more and more interviews as we always do on this channel. So I'll try to get that. What's in our, we talked about this off a little bit, but what's in my bag, what's in our bag video, just to show how we actually shoot and do interviews mobily. So
very cool, man. Yeah. And I have an interview coming up too with I believe he's in the Army. He's a high level guy, right, in the military. I'm not going to say the thing because I'll probably butcher it. I'm not a military guy, so I don't know about this. But his squad in the early days went 9-0, which is completely unheard of in these military operation simulations. Usually they lose, right? These battles, say these simulation battles, and usually 50% range, if not lower, is sort of the average. And these guys went 100%, right? Multiple times because of this different team, the way they utilize a team. And anyways, he wrote a book on sort of, he's a successful leader now of, a company, and it helps other companies and leadership as well. I will share the information with that pretty soon. Look for it on, whatever, the Instagram and all the things I'll be promoting it to. So it'll be really interesting. Very agile way of thinking, right? Probably. All right, brother.
All right, man.
Nice talking to you. I am Adolfo Foronda at Nerdstalker on Twitter, at @Foronda at all the places. Check us out on YouTube, Nerdstalker TV, nerdstalker.com, and give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and the whole thing. All right.
Yeah. And I'm Greg Viloria, aka SocialGreg on Twitter for the Nerdstalker Media Network, where we believe in tech, startups, design, agile, and you. Now.
And you. Yeah. All right. Take care, man.
All right. See ya.